Curiosity is possibly the greatest trait humanity has as a species. Our relentless drive to know ourselves and the world we inhabit. This curiosity has resulted in humans learning and understanding nature to a degree that we now exist as the apex predators, a single species that dominates the globe. But this curiosity can be a double-edged sword. Curiosity takes us to places where no sane man should venture. Two things hazardous to our existence. A theme captured time and time again in horror literature. We humans cannot help but stare into the abyss. Philip is the protagonist of this story. There is a sense of inevitability in his words. In his letter, a cryptic foreword, either he was doomed by human nature or humanity itself was. Philip's father, Howard, was absent from Philip's life from before he was born. So when Philip receives a letter from his father pointing him towards a safety deposit box in a bank, he quite naturally follows these directions. It led him to an indecipherable book and Howard's notes. Philip says his father misjudged what he would do.
My father's instructions were to burn the documents, raise no further questions. But that was his error. No man's immune to the shameful trappings of curiosity, and my humanity got the better of me.
But I wonder, a man cannot be that unaware of human nature. So by telling Philip about this, despite his instructions to the contrary, it's likely he knew he could very well be sending Philip towards something dark and sinister. Maybe the need for closure about his own life, maybe a small amount of scientific interest points him towards the location in his father's note, a remote frigid part of northern Greenland.
It took me almost a year to book the last flight I'd ever take. As I watched civilization disappear along with Heathrow, I realised my father had disappeared 3 decades ago, almost to the day, and I considered in turn what it was that I was leaving behind. We landed on a strip of ice a few feet wide, and within minutes I was pulling away on a chartered boat, beginning the 12-hour journey that would lead me into my past.
Philip gets a harsh welcome in the Arctic. Shelterless in one of our world's most inhospitable and brutal environments, he is faced with a bitter cold. As the hypothermia-induced numbness sets in and the deafening sounds of the wind smothers his senses, he manages to jump into a bunker that takes him deep underground. The ladder to the surface stands broken and out of reach. He is forced to venture deeper into the place, as quite literally there's no way back. As he explores the structure hidden beneath, a fear gnaws into him, an old forgotten fear, as he realizes how far he has left behind the societal safety nets, isolated from help in a situation that reignites the classic man versus nature fear that still lies deep within us. This long abandoned bunker of wood, stone and metal stretch out in an uncomfortable, expansive system of rooms and corridors. But it is not just the uneasiness of being alone in a vast space that gnaws at you. It's the feeling that heightens into sheer terror when you hear a noise or get a glimpse at something that signals to you that you are not. The mines and caves are a distinctly colorless place, a singular grey-brown mundanity, featureless and dull for large chunks of it, given a ghastly green hue by our glow stick, a small price to pay for its reliability. The whole area, however, isn't completely drenched in darkness. There are sections where the lights still work, but in a weird way the comfort they bring is overtaken by the interplay of lights and shadows that seem to amplify the loneliness in these large, forlorn corridors. There is this curious room we soon encounter, a room that contains a disturbing mix of sounds, a man's short intermittent breaths, and the sounds of spiders crawling nearby unseen. The room is marked by these bizarre childish scribbles, unlikely to have been made by a child. We can feel the presence of things nearby, and our presence in the room is announced by the old wood loudly creaking as we move around. Against our better judgment, diving into the underground spider infested caves, we come across the notes of a scientist who, quite like us, found himself in a similar situation, stuck underground with no way of getting back up outside. We see his hope slowly fade away as he locks himself inside the storage room, away from the feral creatures who have occupied the rest of the mine. His notes paint a picture of a slow descent, an obsession formed, a weird obsession with spiders cultivated by his scientific mind. He accidentally swallows a spider native to this cave system, delighted in the discovery that it is a non-poisonous sustenance. He starts eating them and noting their behavior, at some point becoming addicted, grotesque and peculiar delicacy. But through all these months, he maintained his sanity in a specific way as the spiders grew large and aggressive, and as his own tongue, with repeated exposure to the spiders, became swollen and infected. He removed himself from the area and his tongue from himself. The last bit of writing we hear from him is a disconcerting bit about how spiders keep scratching at his door. We can hear these spiders, another layer in the unsettling soundscape of the depths below. In these strange subterranean environments, noise travels differently. Entering the rocks and distorting itself into what feels like the shifting of a large organic creature. A droning noise mixes with the winds, falling rocks, the low hum of old lights and radio equipment. All these sounds envelop the player. And sometimes the sound of dogs pierces through the environment. Stalking the area like ghouls in a dungeon. Though whether these canines fulfill their roles to add a bit of tension and danger to the game is questionable. The way they are in this game, they are easy to break and almost comical. They flop on the floor if hit, often clipping into it, and they are really easy to beat and stun lock into a loop, an immersion breaking reminder that we are in fact playing a game with some notable rough edges. There's an interesting structure to Penumbra. It is natural that the older things are, the deeper they are buried. But in a sort of reversal to that, the deeper we go, the more lived in these caves and tunnels get, the more recently has human activity shaped these places. It's a common theme of humans ignoring warnings, braving dangers if they are successful, or stupidly reaching for death if not. We don't like to be told we can't do something on our own planet. Though there is a haunting pattern in these repeated attempts to use, explore, or research this mine. Tragedy knocks often down here. Suicides, accidents, and other such events led the mine to be given a crude but unambiguous name: Death Mine. This place has an impact on one's psyche. So far from home in a desolate, uncomfortable environment heavily affects the mind, but above that, this cave seems to bring its own sinister dangers. Disembodied voices follow the miners down below, sounds of crying from deep within the rock walls. Philip can hear this too. For him, these voices manifest as unintelligible whispers, as if mocking him for his quest for knowledge. It's maddening and lonely down here. It leads to an unpredictable edge in one's behavior. We hear the story of a group of miners lost deep within the mines, one among whom gained an uncanny emptiness in their eyes. He blew up a part of the mine along with himself and the foreman, permanently sealing the fate of the group in the subsequent cave-in. And we see the effects of all these psychological pressures on Red as his voice crackles through the radio.
Good day. Good day, can you hear me?
The first voice we hear from anyone after hours and hours of exploring these desolate, abandoned caves. Another human, a companion. Tom Redwood hasn't had much of a normal life, sent to work in the mines at the age of 14, but his work here was even shorter lived. After a cave-in, he spent the next 30 years of his life stuck underground with no escape. It's clear that Red is not all there in his mind. His voice, sometimes manic,
As far as my eye has seen, our rocky grave extends, and yet you cast away my help like you would a puppy, freshly rolled in its own feces. I hope that your warped sense of morality is better company than I, because now it is all you have left.
sometimes calm and friendly.
With my remaining ear to the ground, I hear your trembling tootsies padding towards their final destination. Things come to those that wait, whether they want them or not, and soon I think your wait will be over. The great metal door in reality is calling you, just as the Reaper beckons me forward. I look forward to finally greeting you. I only hope I need not greet the Reaper man first.
But always poetic in his delivery. Red helps Philip as much as he can, telling him where to go and how to progress, leading him forward. But his volatile behavior means he can send Philip into danger because he believed he had been somehow wronged, like how he sends Philip into an arachnid-infested cave. But in the end, down here, Philip formed an unusual but very real connection with Red. His conversations were one-sided as he couldn't respond to Red. Philip never even saw Red's face. But this fleeting bit of contact grounded him in this alien space. No matter how unstable or unreliable at points, the presence of the well-meaning Red somehow kept the maddening loneliness at bay for Philip. Red, however, has been permanently changed and is living a torturous existence down here. He said that he wasn't allowed to die. He went on living in squalor, his only companion books he had read over and over again. He is a man trying to hold on to his slipping sanity in the unfathomably cruel situation he was put in. This lunatic was Philip's only friend down here, and to free that lunatic, Philip cremated Red alive.
Please, the pain has gone on for so long. All I wanted was a friend, but now the time for chit-chats and marshmallows by the fire is ended, and I hope that soon so shall my life. I have knocked on the death's door for so long. Please, let him invite me in for tea.
The fire burned bright and red as he fulfilled his friend's wish to die to escape this nightmare. And signs point towards the fact that this dilemma might not have been entirely of earthly origin. There is this Greenland mythology. There is a legend about a being called the Turngate. Seemingly benign and even benevolent in some cases, working with the local shamans to help the people in the area. But there's another side to them. Their malicious effects range from interference in hunts, sabotage, and in extreme cases, possession. There's this odd artifact scattered around with an alien design and an otherworldly glow. Artifacts that seem to dive into Philip's consciousness, segmenting it inside itself whenever he interacts with them. Like the canines and spiders mentioned before, the animals in this place seem to mutate rapidly. It seems the more efforts have been made to scientifically learn and dissect this place, the more monstrous form this place takes, as if to stop our transgressions. The newest collective down here is a secretive society, the Archaic. Their facility seems to be where these human transgressions have peaked. These researchers excavate the Turngate tomb that lies deep below the surface, which unleashes a sort of calculated hell on this shiny modern research facility. These researchers excavate the Turngate tomb that lies deep below the surface, which unleashes a sort of calculated hell on this shiny modern research facility. There's a distinct change of mood between the two halves of Penumbra. The dangers in Overtures felt passive in a way, reactive to the player's activity. The archaic facility in Black Plague feels aggressive, malicious. Gone are the endless expanses of empty hallways. As Philip closes on his goal of learning the truth about his father, in a way it feels like the horror is closing in on him. A more intelligent and intimate terror, one which actively hunts him down. The halls of Archaic add a layer of visceral body horror. The deaths are fresh and violent. The blood oozing from the corpses that lie gored and broken hasn't dried up yet. The enemies take the overall form of the human body to a monstrous and warped extreme. Riddled with guilt and utterly lonely after Red's death, Philip now has to face the horror of the Turngate alone. But it's as if the monkey's paw cruelly curls to play an ironic joke on him. These enemies in the facility were all previously human, slowly overtaken by a virus. We can read the symptoms that have been discovered, and with a stomach-churning feeling, the realization sets in. The infection has taken a hold in his brain as well. Philip suddenly starts hearing a voice inside his head, a manifestation of the Turngate virus in his own mind.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? What am I doing here?
A being with its own identity and personality. The name it picks for itself after scrounging through Philip's head is Clarence.
You only got the first half of It's a Wonderful Life in here. Huh, how does it end? Now I'll never know. You know, Clarence, that's not a bad handle. I am something of a guardian angel.
Clarence in some ways is a steady companion, but he is not a friend.
There's just something about a rusty saw that just makes me purr. Had a tetanus jab recently?
Clarence is an interesting existence, a foreign entity not only sharing his consciousness but also manipulating his senses. It's a peculiar dynamic between the two of them, the terror of Philip slowly losing control over what he sees or hears.
Did that bridge really collapse, or is my good friend Clarence just playing an hilarious joke?
And the terror of Clarence at being disconnected from the Turngate hive mind.
Why can't I hear their voices? Well, thanks for the help. I'm having an existential nightmare and you can't even say a word.
Are the inverse of each other and sets up the Turngate human conflict central to the story's climax. Due to the rule against suicide, Clarence can directly kill Philip. So again and again he puts Philip in more and more dangerous positions, maniacally screaming when he sees another affected target to come and kill Philip.
Yeah, feast on him, brother. Free us both.
This is the situation in which Philip has to find out the truth that his father discovered while facing threats both internal and external. And there's more to Clarence. He plays with Philip in ways that don't directly benefit him to alleviate his boredom perhaps. We as the player share Philip's senses, so these tricks deceive and confuse us as well in a pretty disconcerting manner.
Can spread quickly. Avoid all unnecessary bodily fluid exchange.
Though Philip isn't entirely alone down here. Deep inside the facility, he is contacted by one Dr. Amabel Swanson.
Wow, you look like you've crawled through a sewer to get here. I suppose I'm flattered. Hi, I'm Amabel Swanson, and I suppose I'll be your guide for the day.
She is clearly shaken by the events, but she is sane, a shred of normalcy. Like read before, it's a one-way conversation with Amabel, but she helps Philip, hoping to escape her own self-imposed lockdown here. Not only that, but she claims to have the cure for the Tarngate virus with her. She keeps in contact with Philip for much of his time down here, a sort of calming, grounding presence in these horrors.
If you happen to find yourself in my neck of the woods, I'm kind of trapped. It's no big deal, really. Just throwing it out there.
This is where Clarence plays his cruelest trick.
Hey, good work, buddy. Give yourself a slap back with a crowbar, why don't you? Oh, one thing, before you get too overwhelmed with glee. I know murder can be a lot of fun, but didn't you quite like... Don't tell me you really thought... I thought you knew I was pulling your leg. Oh, my best laid plans and all that. This is just terrible. You silly Billy. Come on, monkey. Take a joke.
After which Philip rushes to cut this cancer out of him, but in the process causes Clarence to wake up in a Tarngate body all his own. This forces an intervention from the Tarngate collective. They beat Clarence to death not for his cruelty but for his independence, pointing out that his evil was born from his individuality. After which the Tarngate show Philip their true form, a bigger cosmic entity far more alien in origin. With its attention on Philip, who has seen their true nature, it wishes to learn the same about human nature. So they put Philip through a series of tests. The Tarngate collective's tests are in some ways very primitive and show a fundamental misunderstanding of humans. Humans aren't philosophical zombies. The seething mass of individual, as the Tarngate calls us, it considers a flaw in opposition to its unity. It is not a revelation that an unified human race is stronger. Even Philip himself wouldn't have reached this far without the help of his friend Red. That Philip led a particularly solitary life. With his mother dead, he had no living family to speak of. He didn't think back much on what he left behind as he made his way to a place where he might not come back from. Clarence himself points out some very interesting things. Red, someone who Philip knew for a very short period of time, takes up a lot of space in his brain, along with thousands of movies, which makes Philip a particularly interesting subject. We humans are an intriguing bunch. Our current society functions on the basis of a collective understanding with systems operated by innumerable number of individuals doing their own work. At the same time, we can be selfish, cruel, or outright misanthropic towards each other. We humans are not a colony of eusocial insects. We work together despite qualia, our subjective conscious experience, and it's a defining feature of us. The Turngate wants us to prove we are not the violent beings that our collective activities betray, and Philip passes the test through a mix of trial and error. After being seemingly satisfied with Philip, the Turngate reveals the true reason behind their aggressiveness. Having been disturbed in their resting place, they were defending themselves from oblivion at the hands of human invaders. At one point, helpful to the local population, providing knowledge, but as humans grew stronger, they chose to peacefully retreat. Yet it's reasonable to think that Turngate are not entirely benign. In their own words, they just wish to be left alone, but there are legends of them being negative forces. Howard, the first one to discover the true nature of the Turngate virus, and someone who followed the Turngate's word, lies dead. The miners who lost their mind due to their influence, their torture of Red. At last, they present a proposal to Philip, asking him to tell the outside world, destroy the cave above and let them remain.
Will you send word? Will you destroy all trace of this place, so that no mankind will ever discover me again? Will you do this?
But Philip wants the Turngate to be permanently destroyed, in some ways confirming their assumptions of humans as violent beings. Why Philip made this decision is left intentionally open. Maybe it's a simple question of destroying an entity dangerous to humans, or maybe it's more personal, a natural instinct of Philip to act in such a way. Because if there's kindness or benevolence to the Turngate, he hasn't encountered that yet. Penumbra refers to the interplay of light and shadow, creating a space shrouded in a mix of mystery and understanding. Knowing little intriguing details about something piques our curiosity more than something where we remain completely in the dark. In some ways, this curiosity illuminates a part of ourselves which doesn't get any time under the light in normal circumstances, our own nature as we react to the unpredictable and unknown, both as individuals and as a collective.